My name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 28 years old. On what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my own wedding, my fiancé's wealthy family humiliated my father in front of hundreds of guests. They laughed at his simple clothes, called him worthless, and shoved him to a back table like he was nothing. I watched my dad lower his head in shame. My mom's eyes filled with tears, and my fiancé. He just stood there, smiling. That single moment shattered everything I thought I knew. I walked up to the microphone and ended the entire wedding in the most unforgettable way possible. But before I reveal exactly what I did, if you're watching this, hit that like button, subscribe for more real stories, and drop your country in the comments below. All right, let's dive in. The lights glowed soft and golden across the grand hall. Gentle music floated through the air while guests chatted, laughed, and clinked their glasses. The entire venue looked like it had stepped out of a fairy tale, sparkling crystal chandeliers, cascades of white roses, and tables draped in luxurious silk. It was meant to be the most magical night of my life, my wedding night. I stood near the stage, my hands trembling just a little as I tried to calm my breathing. Guests kept approaching me with warm smiles, complimenting the beautiful decorations, the delicious food, and the flawless setup. From the outside, everything seemed flawless. But deep down, something felt terribly wrong. I glanced across the room and spotted my parents standing among the crowd, side by side, beaming at me with pure pride and joy. My father gave me that familiar small nod, the one that always said, "I'm here for you." My mother's eyes sparkled with happiness. For a brief second, I smiled back and my heart softened. Maybe everything is okay, I told myself. They're here, they're smiling, but that uneasy feeling refused to leave. My father kept adjusting his sleeves, clearly uncomfortable in such an extravagant setting. He was a hardworking man who had spent his whole life using his hands, repairing machines, taking any job he could find just to support us. His clothes were always neat and clean, but never fancy. He didn't chase brands or status. He valued honesty, dignity, and family above all. Growing up, we never had much money, but we had everything that truly mattered: love, warmth, and unbreakable strength. I still remember those evenings when the electricity went out. We'd sit together by candlelight. My father would share stories, my mother would chuckle softly, and I'd sit nestled between them, feeling like the luckiest girl alive. We weren't rich, we were simple, and I was always deeply proud of that. My mother was just like him, gentle, selfless, often working extra shifts without ever complaining. She rarely bought anything for herself, yet she always made sure I had what I needed, and sometimes even what I wanted. Not once did they make me feel inferior or lacking. Seeing them there that night, smiling at me so proudly, should have made the moment perfect, but it didn't. "Clara!" I turned at the sound of my name. It was Ethan, my fiancé. He looked dashing in his tailored suit, radiating confidence and ease in this luxurious world that was so naturally his. He took my hand gently and whispered, "You look stunning." I smiled back. "Thank you." For a moment, everything felt right again, like the future I had imagined was finally within reach. I had met Ethan 2 years earlier in the most unlikely place, a hospital. My father had been injured at work, and I had rushed him there in total panic. While I sat anxiously outside his room, exhausted and overwhelmed, Ethan walked by. He was visiting someone else too. We started with casual talk, then deeper conversations. Days became weeks, and soon it turned into something real. He never came across as the typical arrogant rich guy. He seemed kind, understanding, and genuine, or at least that's what I thought. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. I believed I had found someone who loved me for who I was, not my background or what I could offer. He once told me words I never forgot: "My family doesn't matter." "I choose you." I trusted him completely, but his family was a completely different story. From the very first meeting, I sensed the distance. Their polite smiles hid cold judgment. They lived for status, image, and strategic connections. To them, I brought nothing: no influential family, no wealth, no useful business ties. I overheard their quiet comments more than once. "Ethan could have chosen so much better." In our circle. Marriage isn't just about feelings. His mother had even said it while looking straight at me. His father barely spoke, but his dismissive glances said enough. Still, I stayed respectful and hopeful. I convinced myself that once we were married, things would improve. Love would bridge the gap. I looked at my parents again. They were still smiling, chatting politely with those around them. But then I noticed Ethan's mother staring at them intently. She leaned over and whispered something to her husband. He turned and looked at my parents too. The expression on his face sent a chill through me. Was I imagining it? I shook it off, telling myself it was just wedding nerves. Then dinner began. Guests were escorted to their assigned seats. The head table filled quickly with Ethan's parents, close relatives, and influential business associates, all from his elite world. I waited, expecting my parents to be guided forward. No one came. Instead, a waiter approached them and politely pointed toward the far back corner of the hall, near the service entrance. My heart sank. I stepped forward instinctively, but Ethan's cousin grabbed my arm with a bright smile. "Clara, come on, time for photos." I glanced back one more time. My parents were quietly following the waiter without protest, without a single complaint. Before I could do anything, the photographer called out loudly for the bride and groom. I was pulled into poses and smiles, distracted once again. Time passed. The feeling of wrongness grew stronger inside me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "I'll be right back," I told Ethan. He nodded absent-mindedly, busy laughing with friends. I walked quickly through the elegant tables, past the cheerful voices and sparkling lights, until I reached the back of the hall. And there they were, my parents at a tiny, plain table right beside the kitchen door. No decorations, no candles, nothing special. Every time the kitchen door swung open, loud clattering, shouts, and hot air rushed out. It wasn't a table for honored guests. It was a spot meant to be overlooked. My father sat upright, trying to appear composed, but his fists were clenched. My mother forced a smile, yet her eyes were already red and glistening. "Dad," I said softly. He looked up and gave me a warm smile. "Clara, you look beautiful," he said, as if nothing was wrong. "Why are you sitting here?" I asked. Before he could answer, a sharp voice interrupted. "Oh, look who finally noticed." I turned. Ethan's mother stood there with a group of women, all perfectly dressed, wearing polite but cruel smiles. "We thought they'd feel more comfortable back here," she said casually. "Closer to the kitchen, away from all the noise and pressure." The women around her snickered. "More comfortable?" I repeated, stunned. Ethan's father stepped in, his tone icy and direct. "Clara, let's not play games." He glanced at my father, then back at me. "This kind of event simply isn't for everyone." Silence hung heavy in the air. One of the women added loudly, not even bothering to whisper, "Did you see his jacket?" "It looks ancient." Another laughed. "And those shoes, seriously?" My father lowered his head slightly. My mother's hands began to shake as she reached for her glass. A tear escaped down her cheek. Then Ethan's mother delivered the final blow with a satisfied smile. "They should be thankful we invited them at all." Something inside me snapped completely. I looked for Ethan. He was standing nearby, watching the whole scene. Our eyes met. I waited for him to speak up, to defend us, to stop this cruelty. Instead, his sister whispered something to him. He smiled, then laughed, a genuine, amused laugh. In that instant, everything became crystal clear. No rage, no confusion, just pure clarity. I looked back at my parents, my father silent and humiliated, my mother quietly wiping away tears. That was all I needed. The music, the guests, the lavish wedding, none of it mattered anymore. Only they did. I took a deep breath and walked steadily toward the stage. People began to notice. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Where is she going? What's happening?" I didn't stop until I reached the microphone. I picked it up. The sound system echoed, the music cut off. The entire hall fell silent as every eye turned to me. "Enough!" My voice rang out strong and steady. The whispers died instantly. Even the staff froze. I gripped the mic tighter. "All of you have been laughing, toasting, and pretending this night is perfect." I paused, letting the tension build, then turned toward Ethan's family. "But it's time to address what's really going on here." Uneasy murmurs spread. I pointed clearly. "That man sitting in the back, the one you mocked and laughed at because of his clothes. That man worked his entire life with his bare hands so I could stand here today." The hall went deathly quiet. "He never demanded luxury. He never asked for your approval. But he deserved basic respect." My voice softened slightly as I looked at my mother. "And my mother, the woman who sacrificed everything for me, who tried so hard to smile tonight while you made her feel worthless. You made her cry." Tears welled in my eyes, but I held them back. I turned to the crowd. You made her cry. Then I faced Ethan directly. He stiffened. I looked at you. I waited for you to say something, to do something. My voice turned ice cold. But you didn't. You smiled. You laughed. Gasps filled the room. Ethan's face drained of color. So let me be perfectly clear. My tone was calm, dangerously calm. Any man who is ashamed of my father is not the man I want to spend my life with. Shocked whispers exploded across the hall. Clara, wait, Ethan started, stepping forward. I raised my hand firmly. No, I gave a small, calm smile. But that's not even the biggest problem you should be worrying about right now. Confusion and fear swept through the room. I looked straight at his parents. You spent the whole evening deciding where my father belongs. Now let me show you exactly where you stand. The hall held its breath. The investment firm that holds the largest stake in your company. I paused deliberately, watching their faces. It belongs to me. For a moment, nothing happened. Then chaos erupted, whispers, shocked glances, people pulling out phones. Ethan's father lunged forward. What kind of nonsense is this? I met his gaze steadily. Not nonsense. Facts, he snapped. That firm is one of our biggest investors. We know them. I smiled faintly. You know the firm's name, you know the contracts. But you never bothered to learn who actually owns it. Phones were now frantically searching. Someone nearby whispered loudly, she's telling the truth, they own almost 30%. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Ethan's father turned pale. Ethan, do something. I slowly turned my eyes to Ethan. He stared at me, no longer confident, only terrified. He said nothing. He couldn't. I addressed his father again. You built your empire on power and the belief that people like us don't matter. Let me show you what real power looks like. The room was pin-drop silent. I am announcing right now that my firm will immediately begin withdrawing all investments from your company. Loud gasps echoed. And once that happens, I continued calmly, let's see how strong your precious empire really is without us. Panic spread like wildfire. Phones rang. Investors murmured urgently. Starting tomorrow, I added, I will call an emergency board meeting. Every investor here will receive a detailed report, not about your finances, but about your character. Ethan's mother stumbled back, her face ashen. His father looked completely stunned. Ethan remained frozen. In that moment, they finally understood. This wasn't just emotion, this was control. I took a deep breath, bent down, and slowly slipped off my wedding ring. The soft sound of it hitting the table seemed to echo through the hall. This wedding, I said, looking at Ethan one final time, is over. The hall erupted in shock and gasps, but I didn't wait. I stepped down from the stage and walked straight to my parents. My mother looked up, tears still in her eyes. I gently wiped them away. Then I took my father's hand. Let's go home. He squeezed my hand tightly without a word. Together we walked through the silent crowd that had once been laughing. No one dared stop us. No one said a thing. Just before reaching the exit, I paused without turning around and spoke one last time. I would rather lose everything than stand beside people who have no idea what respect means. Then I walked out, leaving behind the glittering lights, the fake celebration, the broken promises, and an empire that was about to crumble.